We love Thursday mornings as we get to talk to Dr. B, and we know the weekend's coming up. Dr. B, of course, Dr. Brent Wallis, Chief Medical Officer of People's Health. And today we're going to talk about hurricanes preparation, especially after what happened with Cristobal over the weekend. National Weather Service predicted an above-average hurricane season rather. And this year, there's some additional items you might want to add to your preparation kit. And Dr. Brent Wallis from People's Health joins us, share tips on ways to prepare. Hey, Dr. B, how you?
I'm good, Tommy. How are you doing?
Very well, sir. Good to talk to you again. There is a lot that goes into getting your hurricane kit together. And People's Health has a guide, and I went to look at it, and it's pretty cool for folks to use. But it's not just for seniors. It's for sons and daughters of seniors, and really everybody. What are some of the must-have items?
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there, but I think we all got a little bit of a test run this past week. The big things I tell patients that they really need to make sure they have is some information about their health conditions. So if you end up evacuating or you end up somewhere where the doctors don't know you, you need to have a little kit prepared that's got all of your health information, any medical supplies that you may have. Your prescriptions definitely are very important. And it's really important to make sure you try to bring your original prescription bottles with you. Part of the reason for that is that if you need to get refills out of town, it's going to be real difficult if you place them into a pill holder. You can't always tell what a blue pill actually is. So I think that's another a point that's really important. And then, of course, things like flashlights, personal hygiene items, food, and then cash and credit cards. And I think this year what's really important, too, is keep in mind, because of social distancing and what's going on with the pandemic, you need to make sure you've got some extra masks, hand sanitizers, and disinfectant in your kit as well.
Let me invite the audience in as well. If you have any questions for Dr. B, you can text them to 504-260-1870. And I'll pass them along. You're talking about prescriptions. That is a very, very important thing to pay particular attention to.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're in the middle of an emergency. You may forget other things that are going on, but it's extremely important to keep taking your medicines as prescribed. This is important for all chronic medical conditions. Most of those you take pills daily or even injections if you have diabetes. And so you have to make sure that you have at least a 2-week supply of those maintenance medications in the event that you do need to evacuate your home.
Somebody texted in here about prescriptions and in terms of disaster evacuating. They say they have their plan together, but their father, and I don't want to drag you into this, but their father insists on doing business with a mom-and-pop pharmacy. That's what it says. And the texter says they think that it would be better to do business with a national chain so that if the mom-and-pop here, for whatever reason, God forbid, gets destroyed, then if they're off in another city, then it would be easier to work through the medical, through the prescription, through the national chain. Any thoughts on that, Doc?
Well, the national chains usually do keep a record of what you're taking. So if you end up in a place where you're not usually filling your prescriptions, they may have that data. The thing is, though, usually when there's an emergency declaration, the health plans allow you to fill your medications early, possibly before they're actually due. And so that way you could go to the mom and pop, get your extra pills so that you can evacuate with them and make sure you've got a good supply through the emergency.
And again, the importance of keeping them in the original bottles so you know what it is and how often you take them, etc. Right. 8:20, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll pick it up here, and we'll talk about chronic conditions and what kind of preparation do you need to consider as hurricane season is upon us. We know that from last weekend. 8:20, traffic now, WWL. 8:24, Tommy Tucker talking with our friend Dr. B, Dr. Brent Wallis, Chief Medical Officer of People's Health, about senior health. And if you're a senior or a son or daughter of a senior, as we go into hurricane season, Dr. B, boy, you got to do some more preparation if you have one of those chronic conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of people in Louisiana with chronic conditions like diabetes. And what's really important during an emergency is to make sure that you maintain your normal self-routine. With diabetics in particular, during an evacuation, you may be eating fast food. You may, if you stay in your home, you may be eating things out of a can. You have to really try to maintain your regular diet, make sure that you're checking your blood sugars because they can get out of control, and then taking your medicines as prescribed as well. Another kind of unique type of group is people who are on dialysis. And what's really important if you're on dialysis where you have to go into a center is making sure you know where you would go if you evacuate and make sure that you've got that set up ahead of time.
Stress, I guess, we're all stressed out when something like this happens, and I would think it could make maybe a chronic condition even worse.
Yeah, certainly. Stress increases a hormone called cortisol, and cortisol actually affects your blood sugar and your blood pressure, so it can actually raise your blood sugar or raise your blood pressure. And so when you're experiencing a large amount of stress, that can actually cause problems with those chronic medical problems. So it's really important to try to stay calm, and like I said, make sure you're taking your medications and checking your blood sugars, checking your blood pressure.
It is so important for people to have a plan, and that's why I would strongly suggest they go to peopleshealth.com/radio, because you really don't consider, I think, or don't realize everything you need to bring, and when you're trying to hurry up and pack up, that's not the time to do it. So what are some other tips you got for people to consider?
Yeah, I think the most important thing, and we say this all the time, but don't always do it, is make sure you have an evacuation plan. Hopefully we get a little bit more notice, but that's not always the case. We may know a storm's coming, but it doesn't look that bad, and so you're really not thinking about what do I do if I have to leave my home. Or heaven forbid, you have a storm come through and it's worse than we thought it was, and you have to figure out what to do afterwards. When services are not available, power's out, and and it may be difficult to get on the road. So having a plan is extremely important. Know where you're going to go and know who's going to go with you.
And maybe some preparations, I guess, because everybody's different. I would imagine if somebody is having a hard time speaking, that's a consideration.
Yeah, anyone who's got trouble with speech or language, people that wear hearing aids, you may want to make sure you include a pad and pencil in your kit. We have a lot of patients who have mobility challenges, so if you need to evacuate with a wheelchair, that's going to be another special consideration to make sure that either you or someone who's with you knows how to operate it, how to fold it up, and make sure you can get where you go. We also have patients who have service animals, and so not all of the shelters accept animals, and so knowing which ones do, or if you're going to a hotel, which ones you can actually, bring your service animal with you, that's other things that you should definitely keep in mind.
Do hotels have I don't mean to catch you flat-footed with this, but can they not accept a service animal, or does the American Disabilities Act say they have to?
No, most of the hotels should if it's designated as a service animal. And I think that designation is something that you'd want to make sure that you have on you. Usually the dogs will wear a vest, or you may have some documentation that can demonstrate that. A lot of odd things happen with hotels around evacuation time, so it's important to be prepared.
Not all good. And you got to bring the animals' records, too. So some emergency resources you would recommend?
Yeah, locally you can call 211. 211 can help you with a lot of basic needs and support and make sure you know where you need to go. Always keeping in tune with what's going on with the weather. You can do via the internet, weather.gov. And then Louisiana has a lot of emergency resources online as well at emergency.louisiana.gov. That'll give you details on recovery efforts and a lot of assistance programs as well.
And for people to find out more about People's Health?
Yeah, you can always go to peopleshealth.com/radio, and there's a lot of information on there.
Or 855-821-2666. And, of course, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Thank you, Doc. I appreciate your time. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Tommy. Have a good week.
You have a good week, and I hope it's a better weekend than we had last time. peopleshealth.com/radio, your one-stop resource for seniors, grown children of seniors, to navigate your way through this hurricane season. It's peopleshealth.com/radio. When we come back, we'll talk to Councilperson Kristen Gislason-Palmer about New Orleans renaming streets and parks named after white supremacists. Here's WWL First News with Dave Cohen.